Welcome back to another episode of the Home Care Experience with TNA. I'm Amy Taylor, here with my ever-resourceful co-host, Troy Brooks. Today, we're talking about a cornerstone of financial stability for home care providers, cash reserves. Whether you're navigating payroll, planning for emergencies, or managing loans, having a solid financial foundation is critical. We'll share strategies for building cash reserves, tips on budgeting, and insights into managing cash flow effectively. Everything you need to create a sustainable and resilient home care business. So grab your notebook, get comfortable, and let's dive into this essential conversation on the Home Care Experience with TNA. All right, welcome back to the Home Care Experience with TNA. I'm Amy Taylor, and I got Troy Brooks here, and we're going to give you a short little episode on something that It's been a topic for a while, but really during COVID, it really became a bigger topic with all the cash and the money that providers were given, loaned, all the things, right? All the money that was coming in. So what I want to talk about is how do you build up a cash reserve so that you're not living paycheck to paycheck, or as we know it, like not our paychecks, but like payroll to payroll. How do you get to where you've got an extra payroll in the bank? And when I say that, I mean the payroll that you're paying out to all your employees. I don't think I even have to explain that because I think everybody knows when we say we're living payroll to payroll, like, you know, if billing is off or billing is delayed, you're in trouble because you can't make payroll, right? So we work with a lot of new startup providers, and they've got a tough road ahead of them. If you started from scratch, you know that. You know how they've got to go through. They got to get licensed. Mm-hmm. If they're doing Medicare, they got to get Medicare certified. They got to get their billing submitter ID. And then even once you have that, doesn't mean the money's actually coming through yet. And so it can take months to get that first check. Mm-hmm. And now you're playing catch up because you've spent all the capital you had getting into the business. You're broke and you're playing catch up, and it can take a while. And this also affects agencies that have been around for years. Sometimes if a reimbursement rule changes and it hurts you, like when we went to on home health, when the RAP, when the RAPs went away. Yeah. You know, that was a hill for everybody to get over. And so, you know, one topic that comes up pretty regularly is how do I save up so that I can get over that hump? And there are a few things, and it's not one size fits all. Like you have said in the past, there are different ways to, you know, different routes to get to the same result. And so I just kind of wanted to touch base on a few of them that I think of. And I actually just had a conversation this week with a brand new provider, just got her entity set up and is looking to move forward. But she was talking about maybe some Credit Karma, payday kind of loans, some of those. I said, do whatever you can to stay away from those because they're a drain. They are what's the right word? They're a trap almost, you know, because you get in, it sounds real attractive. They give you just little bits. They don't give you big money. You know, they give you little bits of money, but they charge 30-40% interest when you add up all the fees and all that. PayPal loans, Cabbage. I don't want to name them because I might get some wrong, but what would be better, and you got to have credit and all that good stuff. What would be far better is to go to the bank that you're going to bank with or go to the bank you've been banking with, ask for a line of credit. Line of credit is your best friend for a lot of reasons. If you can get a line of credit, in most cases, let's stay on track of this, of a startup. You're getting a line of credit on you. It doesn't matter what your business is, your business name, your business is.
You're going to personally guarantee it.
You're going to personally guarantee it. So you need to have the credit. You need to have the backing to be able to do that. But that's a great way. Now, this is outside of, hey, I've been working. I've saved up a bunch of money. I did X, Y, and Z, and I've got $250,000 to go buy a provider number. This is outside of that. I mean, you've got to have capital to get started. But once you kind of get your business plan, you're kind of laid out, you're getting licensed, all the things, and you're going to go bank with somebody, see if you can get a line of credit, even if it's $10,000. So let's talk about if you get a $10,000 line of credit, but your payroll is $100,000 every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So what you want to do is you want to use that line of credit. You want to use it a lot. You pull 2,000, pay it back. Pull 3,000, pay it back. Pull 2,000, pay it back. Just they want to see a lot of movement on that line of credit. And then you go back 6 months later and say, hey, can you increase it? Mm-hmm. They'll double it again. Next thing you know, you get to where you got a $100,000 line of credit. What we like about a line of credit is you're only paying interest on the amount that you have withdrawn. So let's say you get a $100,000 line of credit, but you don't need anything yet or at all. The best time to apply for a loan is when you don't need it. And that's the hardest thing. So a line of credit's a loan. So people don't think about that in those early stages, or when they're doing good, they're like, oh, we're good. We don't need it. That's the best time to get a line of credit, is when you're doing good. Get the lending when you don't need it, so that when you do need it, it's already in place. You could do that with a loan. Watch your interest rates, but now you've got to service that debt. So you've got debt. So
even
service.
if you get the money and it just sits there, you still have to service the debt.
Yeah, you're still paying interest. I don't think that's wise if you don't need it. But a line of credit just sits there, and it's, you don't tap into it, you pay nothing. I had one at Chase for probably 15 years, and it was $150 a year. I didn't touch it for the last 10 years. I finally closed it this year. Finally closed. I was like, okay, I don't need that anymore. But to me, that is the top way to help you get over the hump, because then you can just borrow a little bit as you need it, pay it right back. Now, what you want to be doing though
one of the things that's come up with, I've discussed with people, and I don't know enough about it, but like when we're talking about there's lines of credit, then there are loans. Are SBA loans viable now?
Yeah,
for startups?
They're viable. I'm not real experienced. What I understand is that they're hard to get through. So it depends on the size of them also. They're hard to get, and it takes a lot of work to go through all the hoops. Like, they want a business plan. They want a real pro forma. They want to really see what you're going to do, not the little capitalization plan that you got to give to Medicare. It's not the same thing. But they're going to be good, although their fees are high. And you definitely want to work with somebody that's all they do is SBA lending. There are different types of SBA loans. Now, if you're minority, woman-owned, Black, Hispanic, definitely, check those avenues. Another thing, which was not on my radar, go look at grants. Look at your state, your city, your community. See if there's any kind of grants, even if it's $5,000, because the point I was going to get to is you should not be paying every dime of what you make in payroll or in rent. You need to be, it's going to take a little while to get over your fixed cost hump. So your rent, utilities, you got your biller, all of those fixed costs that it doesn't matter at this point how many clients you have or patients you have. You've got to pay those no matter what, right? $5,000 rent, I've got to pay that if I've got one client or patient, or I got 50 patients. But you're going to get to a break-even point where all of those costs are covered, plus the PRN cost to go send a nurse out, plus your overhead. Once you get over that, you're going to start having profit. You've got to be diligent about, I need to take part of this profit and I need to save it. So that's what I'm talking about, building up some cash reserves. Ideally, listen, you go listen to Dave Ramsey. He's going to say 6 months cash in the bank. Absolutely not realistic. Yeah. Honestly, if I see that much money in the bank, I'm going to ask you why you have that much money in the bank. But I remember mutual client, and I go to their office in Houston, and I saw it was like $2 million. And this was almost 20 years ago. And I was like, so my answer, and this was on the financial statements on the trial balance. I go, oh, clearly they haven't reconciled the bank account in quite a while. Oh, no, that was true.
It was just sitting there.
It was just sitting there. You may not be insured for all of that, folks. But I say 1 month. You got to start first with one payroll. then if you can get 2 payrolls, and then if you can get a full month of expenses, that's my practice.
There used to be one point with Medicaid contracts. Now we're in managed care, but there was in some of the Medicaid waiver contracts a requirement for a certain amount of cash reserves, and it was an issue for a little while, and then it went away. Now, the reason some things go away in this world, as far as the law is still there, it hasn't changed. It's just that the way it's enforced has changed. And so, but there was an issue. This is probably 20 years ago, where people were running into trouble because they were supposed to have a certain amount of reserve funds, and they didn't. And so, I mean, we worked through that, but nobody was put out of business because of that.
Right.
But I guess one of the things before we move on, I was wanting to point out, you covered some of them. The reasons that you could all of a sudden have a halt to your billing or your ability to get paid, there are numerous. Mm-hmm. And I have some clients going through it right now with provider revalidation, Medicaid revalidation, and it's a nightmare. And it's
not their fault.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess that's the thing is people think, well, there's a reason they're called emergencies.
Yep.
So,
yep.
But keep going.
And it could be, so like, in my practice is I have a bottom dollar number of like, this is 0 to me in my bank account. So I don't draw down I don't pay myself past that level, right? Mm-hmm. So we have good times, whatever. I'm going to take some distributions, draw the profits out of the company. But I've set a floor of, I don't even know what the number is right now. But you want to have that month of expenses if you can build to that. And honestly, it's going to take some sacrifice of the owners. I see agencies struggle that have 4 owners that all want to be paid as owners. It's a new provider, and everybody can't make $150,000 right off the bat. You're not going to make it that way, right? And so you got to be really smart about it, and you need to understand it's probably going to take you 2 years to get there. So that's also something. It's not overnight, but you just a little bit at a time, and then once you're rocking and rolling, and you're like, okay, we're covering a month of expenses. Then what you might do is you might consider withdrawing and personally saving as the owner some of your cash, and those cash reserves, in my opinion, and this all depends on ownership structure and tax structure and all that, but in general, you can pull that out and save it personally. So that's why I finally got rid of my line of credit. I know it's only $150 a year, but I was trying to leave Chase. I'm really about to leave him. I did leave him over PPP for anybody listening that remembers that says I was going to do that. All my banking went to Encore Bank is where I am now. And, but my Chase Southwest card, they cannot get my name updated to Amy Taylor. So I'm going to have to cancel it and go to American Express. I'll be back in about 6 months because I need my Southwest points.
Oh, well.
I spend a lot of money. It keeps me on A-list preferred.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That's my personal side. Business all goes on American Express. Anyways, but you can pull that out individually. And so I don't care if you save it personally and maybe you only carry 1 month of one payroll in the bank account. But as long as you've got it personally, and then the way I worked it was, okay, let's say your monthly expenses are $100,000, and now you've comfortably cashed and stocked $300,000 over here. You're pretty safe. Mm-hmm. And then everything over that, okay, start investing, start spending some money, build you a house, whatever you want to do. But you got to be really smart about it. I've seen more failures by people making money initially, taking it out and spending it. And then when the business is in trouble, they're struggling. And we have some of that right now.
The situations that I've dealt with over the past few months where, again, in the revalidation process, people have had problems. The ones who have gone through the thickest and the most bleak moments are the ones the owners they were prudent in their business planning and personal business planning. Mm-hmm. So because in many cases they're the ones putting up the money,
yes,
to fund the business at that point. When the business obviously had some reserves, but even when those reserves are exhausted, the owners kicked in, and that's just a decision you have to when you get to you have to make the decision. Is the business worth salvaging?
Yeah.
Is this worth you putting the money in? And so because I had one client the other day who was faced with a situation like that, and he was like, I can do this. I can put my money in there because am I going to get it back?
Yeah,
is a question. And so every situation is different. But
for sure.
But anyway, yeah. So prudent personal business planning, prudent personal planning, financial planning is very important.
And me on the financial side, you can kind of see who is like really smart about it and who is a little less frivolous with it, and then you also got to remember when you start making money, and this was not the topic, but if you're making money and you're able to pull it out of your company, you got a tax bill coming. So be prepared. And again, not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but you cannot make money and not pay tax. It just don't work that way, folks. Because, you want to make money, but then you want to spend it all on tax deductible things and draw down that income so you don't pay tax on it. But then you want to go borrow money personally to build a house, but your business shows zero net income because you drew it all down. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So it's one of those things that you've got to, if you want, and I remember this when I was a baby starting out, like I knew I was going to pay tax because I wanted to show income because I wanted to have buying power.
Yeah.
So, I'm a CPA, but I'm straight and narrow by any means. So I know.
So what are some of the things that you've seen startup clients do? Are there any methods that they've used to build up their cash reserves? Or there's like any, I don't know, I don't want to say they're not tricks, but they're like basically any methods that they might use?
Well, those payday loans are bad because you're throwing money away at that interest. So to me, those are no-nos. And so those that get into it, it is very hard to get out. Another thing, paying payroll taxes is absolutely non-negotiable. You cannot get out of that one, folks.
And payroll taxes, this is the thing that I didn't know until I went into private practice. Payroll taxes are the owner is personally liable for them. That's one of those situations where the business, you're insulated from civil liability because of the business entity that you have. But even with even if that you have an LLC or something that fails to pay payroll taxes, well, the members of the LLC are then they're liable, personally liable for those taxes.
And the IRS can get real nasty.
Yeah.
If you've got an in-house bookkeeper that is like the one that's kind of, runs the payroll and pays the bills, that person, even if they're not an owner, that person can be liable. And it's not, let's say you owe $100,000 in payroll taxes and you have 4 owners. It's not that each owner's liable for 25. Each owner's liable for the full 100.
Actually, I remember years ago when I first found this out, there was someone with a nonprofit and they had failed to pay payroll taxes and their board members were getting notices. So it's
that's the one we don't mess with. And if we get somebody coming to us and they're behind on payroll taxes, we tread very lightly. And in most cases, we don't work with them because
the clients that I've had who have had, like, for instance, if you have a tax lien, that will impact your ability to get a license, a home health license, a HICSA license, Home and Community Support Services Agency license, which is HICSA, which is home health, hospice, personal assistance services. And the ones who have had the liens that we've had to deal with, that we've had to battle keeping the license alive, are people with payroll tax liens.
And they can offset.
I'm saying payroll taxes, those are the ones that are business killers.
Now, if you owe income taxes, let's say you're a C corporation and the company pays tax at the corporate level, and those taxes are due, or even you as an individual, you owe personal income taxes, those are the commercials you see 2 cents on the dollar. We settled for 2 cents on the dollar. Payroll taxes do not fall into that bucket. I can't preach it enough. I also want to make sure everybody knows there is a snoring English bulldog in the background.
Her name's Roxy.
Her name's Roxy, and I apologize. So just in case y'all can hear that, she has no shame. And anyways, back to so what can they do? I think it's about being frugal. And before you even get started, make sure you know what you're getting into and you've got the backing to get up and running. And you need a plan for the worst. Okay, some people are getting, money turned on in 6 months, but they said it could be 12. Plan for 12. Mm-hmm. Or the probe and educate, whatever that early ADR stuff, like be prepared for that. And that's where I think spending good money will save you. So another point there, you got to spend money to make money. But if you spend, some people just try to do it all themselves. And I find they're the ones that don't do as well. And I'm the last professional that needs to be hired. That's what I always tell people. I said, but you got to hire a payroll company out of the gate. Just get on a payroll service. But if they would hire somebody to help them with the 8855 or 855.
855, yeah.
855 and get it done right. Help them get through those hoops. And when I say hire somebody, how many have they done already? Are they the Sharon Newtons of the world? Let Sharon Newton do your work, right? She's done, that's all she does is 855s. If you spend a little money on those things and let some professionals help you, a lot of times it goes way, way smoother and you get through it. But then, so let's say you're all licensed, you're all good to go. You were able to do that on your own because maybe you did it at another agency. And then you hit those ADRs. That needs to be your most important project. And if you know how to address them, great. But if you don't have that expertise, go get a consultant that can fight them or an attorney that can fight them and get those handled. Because the quicker you get out of that, the way better your cash flow is going to be. The good thing is, once you get through those, as long as they're all approved, you get a big chunk of change, and then you can kind of pay back. The other thing, like how to get there, owners are most likely going to have to fund the operations. I would be very slow to pay that back. Make sure that cash is coming in, you're paying payroll. I would build that cash reserve before paying back owners' loans. That's important. To me, that's how I would do it. And I think that's the biggest thing. But that's all for startups. What about those that, have been operating a long time? I've got an example. This is a little bit off topic, but it's relevant. So got a client. I don't know all the answers and I don't do operations, but I know how to read the numbers and I know what levers affect various numbers. And so client knows she's got a problem. I see she's got a problem. Neither of us know what it is. We just get on the phone. We get on Zoom and we start talking through. I'm like, okay. She's like, I don't have any cash. Okay. Census is up. Census is up. Okay. Referrals are up. They're converting to admissions. Admissions are up. Census is up. Okay, billing. So then my next question is billing. Billing's on time. We don't use an outside party. Sometimes outside parties can be a little delayed. We don't have a lot that's not being collected. Everything's being collected. So then it's like really a mystery. I'm like, okay, something's going on. Okay, well, we need to look at your payer sources. What we found was that they knew they took a bad payer, but it's kind of like you take the bad with the good. We don't want to piss off our Medicare referral sources, so we're going to take their well-med patients. Well, they didn't know how much well-med they were taking, and so census is up, but they found a lot was well-med, and those payments are really low. They didn't have a good contracted rate or whatever. But really understand your patient mix, your case mix. If you're in home health, look at your, is that called case mix? Like how severe your patients are?
I think so.
Okay. And then on the hospice side, do you have clients that are on their 5th and 6th and 7th billing period? Lower, that's a new thing, right? That's a lower reimbursement rate. So you want to kind of really know those things and dig into them. But, if you're established, even if it's just $5,000 a week or $5,000 a month, you've just got to sock it away. Now, the good thing is we're actually getting paid interest rates now.
Yeah.
So you can get a money market account or a high yield savings account or whatever, put it in there, and then you start making a little bit of money, So, I don't know anybody that needs less than $100,000 a month to run their agency, right? I mean, that's pretty, I don't want to say entry level, but that's pretty, it's 1.2 million a year.
It's one of the things that's amazed me when I first got into the private side was exactly how much money, how much the amount of revenue and the amount of expenses in running a home care business.
Yeah. So $100,000 a month and a 5% yield, I mean, you're getting a good little return and then you're making money on that. But I think it's really about being frugal until you get there. And I think too many people get these big egos and they're like, oh, I'm a business owner and I'm killing it and I'm doing this and that. And then I see the financials and I'm like, are you really though? And they're just taking it all out of the company and the company seems very fragile. Maybe they've got it saved, but you can see by people's spending habits and all that. You don't need the Land Rover, folks. You do not need the Range Rover. Full big body, big body Range Rover right out of the gate. Or a G-Wagon. I don't even like those. I can talk cars all day long.
Well, that's a good little overview of building cash reserves. So.
And just how important it is. And I think it gives you a lot of freedom to be able to sit back and breathe and then start enjoying that luxury of what you've built is now paying you. I think it's just patience.
Being able to sleep at night. Stuff like that.
Know all your taxes are paid. And you're good to go. So.
All right. Stress level goes down.
Yeah, a lot. Cash helps. Okay. All right, everybody. Hope you found it important.
All right.
Not important, but informative. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Home Care Experience with TNA. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found it insightful. You can find more episodes of the Home Care Experience wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We'd love it if you could share this podcast with your network and/or leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who are passionate about home care and hospice. Visit thehomecareexperience.com for links and resources in the show notes. Until next time, take care and keep making a difference in the lives of those you serve.